All right. Welcome to our One Blessed Mess. This is Ben and Liz, and we are so excited to be here today with you. We're here talking about our story with raising 6 kids in 8 years and managing our entrepreneurial home with 2 businesses while homeschooling, and also currently navigating life with 4 teenagers, 4, soon to be 5, plus 8 chickens and 2 dogs just to keep life interesting. Also, what is our acronym for our One Blessed Mess?
O1BM.
O1BM.
And Liz likes to say R1BM.
R1BM. So it kind of...
That's a joke.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier. It's in earlier episodes. It's some potty humor, and unfortunately, I never grew out of potty humor, so still funny to this day.
Yes. Sometimes I'm raising 7 kids, not 6.
Yeah,
just kidding.
this is true. You had to do some first-time obedience with me, even. Yes. Which is what we're talking about today.
It is
by the
what
way.
we're talking about today.
This is the second part of our first-time obedience covered or topic, I guess you would say, and we're gonna dive right back in. But you were telling me right before that you had a funny story that you want to start off with.
So this story is really hilarious. I just had this memory and thought I would share it with you guys because everybody needs a good laugh every now and then, especially on a heavy topic like what we're talking about right now. So Christmas, I got these decals and had the nativity set up. So like decals that you put on a window, right?
They're like the sticky ones, right?
They're like the sticky ones.
Yeah, like on a sliding glass door.
Yeah, like on our sliding glass door. And that's something that I do in my house. Depending on what holiday we're celebrating, I always put these little decals up there. And it gives the kids something to do while we're decorating. It's kind of fun. So they come off and go back on. Well, anyway, I have the nativity set there, and we have family that's visiting us. But
they didn't just put the nativity up. They actually started writing on these little sticky
with a
decals.
Sharpie.
With a Sharpie.
Yeah, with a Sharpie.
Yeah. And putting things, fun things, right? Like Mary and Joseph. Yeah,
Mary and Joseph.
And
little
Noel and yeah, but there was something on
the donkey.
What was on the donkey?
I'm looking at the donkey, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I saw it too.
Does that say what I think it says?
It looks it spells out a dollar sign, but not dollar signs. Okay, and let the reader understand.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. So what do I do? Naturally, I grab my phone and take a video of it.
It was done in someone's handwriting that was really rough and very juvenile, you're like, how did they connect?
I didn't know if it was one of my kids or the cousins or something. So it turns out it was my niece. And I asked her, so innocent. Hey, so they said you wrote on this. Tell me, what did you write there? She's like, I wrote UGG.
That does not look like
UGG.
That
does not look like UGG. And you guys, this is right before we had the church over. Like the church was on their way.
Right.
The church was on their way.
We're doing home church.
Yeah. They were all coming over that day. It's right before they arrived. And I thought, oh, this is funny. This is very funny. So we just thought we'd tell you that funny story because it just happened. So, all right.
Good times.
So the topic we're jumping into today.
Yeah. So we're going to pick back up where we left off on the first time obedience. We had just finished talking about the example with our daughter and the diaper and
pros and cons. We talked about
pros and cons. And we'll just do a real quick recap on the concept, just so, if you are starting out on this episode, you can go back and watch the first one, but you won't have to just completely come in blind. So first time obedience is this concept of training kids, especially young kids, and even specifically young kids, how to obey the first time a directive is given. And for reasons that are quite obvious: safety, consistency, learning and expecting to understand about authority, and even just establishing safety and peace for the parent and for the child. So that's kind of the pros. We talked about some of the cons also, where if you just stop there, right, on this concept of first time obedience, and that's the only way that you relate to your kid, then you're going to miss out, just like anything else. Like if you only related to your kids on sports, you're going to miss out so much on life. So with any type of parenting tactic or technique, right, we're not saying this is exclusively the way that you relate to your child, but it helps to lay this foundation because it makes other things so much easier. And so that was one of the other things we were talking about, is like the dividends that this kind of pays later on in life, especially with teenagers. If you have kids that are used to obeying, like that opens up so many more possibilities for you to be able to spend your energy in other things, but besides getting them to obey.
Right.
So we just talked about, our daughter's diaper and how we got real intense in the training, and she finally dropped it. Yeah, and one time, and then basically that set her default with how she relates to both Liz and I, and she's one of our most obedient kids, and we really have obedient kids. I mean,
well, what about when a certain other daughter was 3?
So this was before we had established this this training.
This is probably why we found this training.
We might have come to our wits' end through this experience, and so we were looking at what we could do differently
because we were a growing family and had another baby on the way.
Yeah. And so when our oldest daughter hit about
3.5,
it was extremely challenging. She is strong-willed. We have
they're all strong-willed.
We have a couple strong. Yeah, they're all strong.
I mean,
and some are stronger than others. But our oldest daughter had such a strong willpower that we just didn't know what to do. We were besides ourselves. We tried various forms of disciplining and different tactics, and nothing seemed to work. And we were like literally at our end. She would growl.
She was mad.
We thought she was like manifesting.
Well,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Like, we thought she was.
I actually went to a lady in our church that I really respect and met with her. And I just said, I'm wondering if my daughter needs deliverance or something's going on. Like, I didn't even know. She's like, nope. She said, she's 3 and she has a lot of estrogen. And that helped me dive into a direction to figure out what's physically going on in her body.
Yeah.
And that is true. When they're 3 and 4 years old, especially in girls, that flood of hormones is very real. And it's there for about 5. Then it starts to really start mellowing out. And then it starts coming back and rising again 8 and 9. But that's because they're preteens and tweens. And we know. So anyway, with her, introducing this was a little bit different. It wasn't just a one and a done. Part of that was because she was a little older. Now, I always say, if work on getting your kids, work with your kids becoming obedient. When you say what you say, you mean, and they know it and they follow through and being consistent. Because if you don't nip it in the bud, like now, so to speak, I don't know how else to say it, but if you don't get there now, then the next year is going to be harder. Then the next year is going to be harder.
10 years from now will be a nightmare.
Yeah, it will, because you want to work with them when they're younger. So she was like 3-4 years old, and it was a little.
It was intense. We finally figured out something that worked, where we would basically, put her in her room and tell her to come out when she had a happy heart, and for some reason that clicked.
It took a little while. So
we were consistent.
we were consistent. So as soon as she would start to get upset for whatever, it didn't even matter. It could be that she was eating with the wrong color spoon, or she didn't get an extra French fry. It was silly little things like that. And her emotions would just start going, and she hadn't learned.
It was a spiral.
It was a spiral. Yeah. And so as soon as we saw that, we would say, hey, get a happy heart. You need to have a happy heart. We explain what a happy heart is. If you can't have a happy heart, then we need you to go to your room, and you're going to stay in your room until you have a happy heart. So we were kind of removing her from the situation. And then we did things creative. Like if she had a bad attitude, your attitude is not good. You're going to go throw your bad, we realize why our attitude is bad. We're going to throw it away in the trash.
Yeah, and we'd physically let her go to the trash and throw
her bad attitude in there, or flush it down the toilet.
Flush it down the toilet.
Because we did that as well. And, so sometimes we got to get creative. And then we were putting in first time obedience.
Right. We'd layer it in.
Yeah, we layered it in.
Yeah.
So,
and that was later. Like that was probably 4 or 5 for her.
Yeah.
When we started figuring that out. So she was older and she was better. But getting the whole family to get on board with the first time obedience thing. And it's not necessarily a one and done. Like even with our other daughter, we still had to remind her, this is what we're doing, guys. We're kind of slacking in this, we
because we're human.
Yeah, we're human, and people fail. We fail.
Or we go on trips, or there'd be a slew of sickness that would come through the house, or I'd have a baby, or I'm newly
awareness.
pregnant.
We'd have to know what was different about what the norm was and why things weren't working.
And then when it was time, it's kind of like, when people get on diets and they get off the diet train, then they get back on the diet train. So something like that, it's just that coming back to it.
Right. Yeah. And so you can't be too dogmatic about it. But we knew that overall, this is where we want our family to go, is we wanted to make sure that they responded to us and they would obey, the first time that we asked them to do something. So let's talk about what it doesn't look like maybe.
Oh, what does
Do you remember our friend, Mr. Ezra?
Oh, yes.
He was a cute kid.
So cute. I fell in love with him.
We met this kid
so cute.
in Ireland.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, he had this crazy bubbly personality.
Yep.
He loved being able to be in the limelight and just go right up and talk to strangers. And so we met this kid at this park, and it was in Southern Ireland, and it was like a resort.
We were celebrating our 20th anniversary.
Yeah, 20th anniversary.
Celebrating.
And this kid comes up to us, and we strike up a relationship. And specifically, he was talking to you.
Well, I just love little kids, and I love especially his age. He was 4. And so I just love the way they think and how expressive they are. And, if you want to have a great conversation, sit down with some 4-year-olds and you're going to laugh because the way they view the world is hilarious. And it's so, so inspiring,
So that was the positive of meeting Mr. Ezra.
Yeah.
But what was the negative thing that we saw shortly after that?
So we were at dinner, and this is how we met him. We were at dinner, and their table, the reservation was right behind us. And so, he strikes up a conversation with me, actually, little cutie pie. Mm-hmm. And we start talking, and then I can't remember exactly what happened, but his mother made a comment and we're just meeting these people. We're over in Europe, right?
They're Americans.
And they're American. So, we're like, happy to meet some more Americans and interested in what they're doing there, plus with their kids. I thought that was brilliant. But there were a lot of people from all over the world, a lot of people celebrating 50 and 60 years of marriage, which was really cool. But she makes the comment to me that they have another daughter, and she's so cute. She's, I think, a little over 1. And she said, she's because she was having a meltdown. She was tired. She wanted to go to bed. She wanted to use the spoon. She didn't want her mom to feed her. All those little things that happen as they're gaining their independence.
We were trying to console her. And
I was like,
she's so cute.
And I was like, you're doing such a great job as a mom. And she goes, well, she's the easy one. He's the hard one. And I thought, gosh, this kid's been pretty awesome with me.
Yeah, we're like, wow, he's hard.
I'm
right?
like, really? Okay. Well, yeah.
And then the next day.
Well, no, that night.
Oh, was it that night? Okay.
He started because he didn't want to leave.
Yeah, that's right. There was 2 episodes. So 2 episodes with Mr. Ezra. The first time he didn't want to leave. That's right. I just remembered that. And he just started pitching a fit. And I don't mean like a little fit. It was like screaming, throwing things. He wouldn't let go of the chair. His dad literally is like trying to yank him off the chair.
It was wild.
It was crazy. It was like you were dealing with a wild animal.
Yeah, it was wild.
And we were mostly shocked by how intense they let him get. And then like that it was almost normal.
Well, and the thing is I want to say, like, we have like our understanding and our family and how we do things. We weren't the only ones. There were people from all over the world, like
looking.
I mean, making comments.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty intense. Okay, so that's the first thing. Next morning, we go and we have breakfast because we're at a resort.
We're at the resort. Yeah. We go in for the continental breakfast that's there, and it's good continental breakfast. It's like the English.
Don't even call that a continental breakfast. What are you doing?
It was
an Irish breakfast. It was the lay of the land. Like it was
great.
Oh my gosh,
Food
take me back.
There.
Can we go back?
I don't know if we could afford it.
Please take me back.
It was like a once in 20 years kind of trip. But anyways, we show up at the restaurant, and there we hear Ezra as we're walking in.
Yeah, and before that started, he sees me. Okay, so he sees me, and we've made a little connection. I'm like, "Hi, how'd you sleep?" Trying to keep things happy because the night before was pretty intense. Yeah. Like it was intense. Like manager coming, servers coming. And so he's like, I did good. And we have been already seated, and I'm just picking up a few more things at this delicious breakfast bar. And I leave him. Well, he starts talking to his mom. Yeah. And then we start hearing him screaming.
Yep.
And he's like in an adjacent room. And we're in the most beautiful location with all these windows overlooking the cliffs with, other people who were traveling.
Right.
And we had by this time had met other couples and 60 years. Somebody else was there for 30 years, 50 years. There was somebody else celebrating a graduation. There was a lot that was going on. And I mean, the whole area that we were sitting in, this big breakfast area, started getting tense.
Yeah.
And he's screaming. And you guys, it wasn't 10 minutes. It wasn't 20 minutes. It wasn't 30 minutes. It had to have been at least 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it could have even been longer, but it was so intense. And
it was so bad that the wait staff was actually coming up asking if they could do anything. And that's when you know, like, it's gotten out of control. Was like, it was affecting the entire flow of the restaurant. And what was sad about it is, like, here's this couple who undoubtedly spent, you know, lots of money to come over and have this enjoyable time and to enjoy it with the kids. And it was ruining it not only for them, but pretty much everybody in the restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, all because this child wouldn't obey.
And what he wanted to do, I found out later because we ran into them again. And, you know, and I still pray for this kid because I know he has a great little call on his life. Like, God has a big plan for him. He's so adorable. But he was upset because he wanted to come have breakfast with you and I. That's why he was screaming. And the mom told me that. And she said, I told him he couldn't because, you know, you guys had a two-seater,
at this point,
which was
I think
true.
I would have just invited him to come to the table.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I probably should have just
worked
said,
on first time obedience later. Just giving in to the
well, and in the conversation with her, you know, she was telling me that this is a pattern. This is something that he does all the time.
Yeah.
And
but why? Why do you think that happens?
Well, I tried to drop little hints.
We don't know why. I mean, we do know why.
Yeah, we know why.
We know why. It's because it's tolerated.
Yeah, it's tolerated.
It was tolerated. It was probably tolerated at home.
Yeah, it is.
And then this is what you get.
Yeah.
You know, when you're out and about and when you're with strangers.
Right. And I did try, because if you know me, if I'm in conversation, especially when I see a stressed out mom, she's so stressed out. She was so embarrassed.
That's sad.
And then there was another third episode that happened. They all went to sing karaoke and they told him to, he got up there, but then they told him he had to get off stage and he didn't want to. And it ended up being a fiasco, which she told me about that. Because we saw him again later that night after this thing. And so this is like a pattern. And so in like, if you know me, I'm trying to like gently bring up maybe a suggestion because we have so many kids, you know, with all different personality types, extremely strong-willed, still strong-willed, you know, all these kind of things. And I'm like, there is a better way. Like, there is a better way. And I did share a little bit with her. I think, you know, it kind of set her on a path to begin to think and maybe, you know, go down this, because this kid, there was like no boundaries.
Yeah.
It was like whatever felt.
His will was at odds with his parents and he was winning. That was the honest truth, was that they were letting him dictate how the family was run. And that's kind of what we're trying to say is what we want to avoid. Like with this tactic, you know, this first time obedience tactic, it's really about making sure that there's a correct authority structure. And you don't have to abuse it.
No,
overuse it.
Please do not.
No. And that's where it gets a bad rap, right? Is because you've got these parents that think only in terms of first time obedience and they don't ever, you know, move beyond that. But we have to say, like, this has saved us so much headache, so much drama, so much stress, and so much time. Like, can you imagine being able to tell your kids, hey, we got to get ready to go. Everything needs to be cleaned up, picked up, and when you're going to walk out the door in 10 minutes, and them actually doing it.
Ours do that.
Ours do that.
Ours really do that.
That's the normal behavior.
Yeah,
you know?
and they get their coats on, they get their shoes on, they get their backpacks.
And they're not robots. They're super creative individuals that, you know, if you start going and cutting up with them, like, they will cut up and they will get into the most fun trouble you've ever had in your life. And I love that. I love that about my kids. They love to cut up and they love to have a good time. But when we get serious and when we know and we say, like, hey, this is what we're doing, guys, they do it. Like,
it started.
It's such a blessing.
We've trained on it, and you should tell the elephant story.
Yeah, there's
a good story about the elephant.
I love telling the story because I think it encapsulates kind of this concept, but in the animal kingdom maybe a little bit. And it's a story about this preserve in South Africa, the Kruger National Park. And you can look this up online. I'm sure you can Google it and find the more details because I'm just going to give you just the basics. But there was a preserve and things were going so well. They were having abundance of elephant in their elephant population. So they're having too many elephants. They needed to relocate them. And the only way they could relocate them effectively was to use these helicopters. And so the helicopters had a harness. They would take elephants up one by one and move them to this other preserve. And they were doing a great job, but they couldn't get the older male bulls because they weighed so much. And so the harness and the helicopters weren't able to effectively lift them. So they had to leave them behind. So all these elephants got moved over to the other preserve, and everything was great at this particular one. At the new one, though, they were noticing something kind of crazy. They were noticing that a bunch of the rhinos were being slaughtered. And it wasn't poachers because the tusks were still left on the animal. They were just being trampled
and killed
and gored.
Yeah.
And it was almost like someone was doing it for fun. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason why these rhinos were being killed. And then the staff there at this new preserve, they noticed that there were other animals being killed. And so they were trying to figure out what is going on. Well, they set up some wildlife cameras and stuff, and they were able to witness young bulls going and doing this, going and killing. And they were trying to figure out, what can we do to stop this? So someone had a great idea, which was to go back and reintroduce some of the older bulls to the new preserve.
Yep.
Guess what happened? As soon as they put those older bulls, the ones that had the ability to enforce their will on the younger bulls, it all cleared up. And there was a clear authority structure, and those young bull elephants, changed their behavior.
Ways. They changed
their
ways.
ways because there was an authority structure, and there was honestly a will that was greater than theirs that was being enforced. And I feel like that's a great kind of like animal kingdom snapshot into what we're talking about here. Is we sometimes we just need another will exerted on ours in order for us to shape up. That happens with us as adults in the form of like God just kind of saying, no, you can't really do that. You need to do this. And sometimes we run headlong the other direction like Jonah. But God ends up having his way, and through circumstances and finally through our obedience and our submission, like he's able to put us back together again. But we don't want to like have to make that our story so often. Sometimes it's nice just to obey the first time.
Right.
Right. And especially when it comes to simple things like running a family.
Yeah.
And with our 6 kids, we just knew that like we would save so much headache if we could implement this strategy of first time obedience. We would pay dividends, and guess what? It has paid dividends. I'm so thankful. We even had, I know I'm kind of rambling on here, but we even had one of our kids recently, our youngest out of all of them, come up and tell us, Mom and Dad, I want to say thank you for teaching us about first time obedience. We were with another family, and the kids were acting up.
Woo.
And there wasn't
down the hatches. Batten down the hatches.
Mama Liz was about to come out and do her first time obedience training. But no, like there was another family we were with, and things weren't going well, and
lots of disobedience.
Lots of disobedience. Woo. The dad would have to repeat several times and
multiple,
count and
10,
all this stuff, and it was
times, still disobeying.
Man, it was tiring just listening to him.
Yeah.
And then they finally left, and they're good friends of ours, and we love them, and we have nothing bad to say about them, but it wasn't our parenting style. And so Ethan comes up and he's like, Mom, Dad, I want to say thanks for teaching us first time obedience, because that was bad.
Yeah.
And he realized, he was recognizing what it looks like when you're not obedient to your parents. And he knew at what was he? I don't know.
9, maybe
8, 9,
8 or 9.
He knew instinctively that's not cool, man. Like, it's
disrespectful to your parents.
Bad. Yeah. You don't want to be that way.
Yeah. And though, we've seen it in other families, as I'm sure you have, and maybe this may be your family. I don't know. I mean, ours was certainly there at one point. But, just really stressed out, especially when it's times of transition, like times to leave and get in the car or sit down and have a meal or do bath time or have to get off screens. Yep. It's like you have to keep saying it. And I just watched families, and I just want to say there's a better way. I think that's why we're talking about this, is because we see it. And
we want to share that.
It's like,
can be good.
It can be good. Like, it's good. And also too, we've talked to single people, individuals, male and female. And they have said that, what they see, they're like, I don't ever want to have kids. And it hurts my heart because children are a reward. That's what the Bible says. The Bible says that the children are your reward. And the Lord has rewarded us with
blessed
6.
is the man whose quiver is full.
Yes. Blessed is the man. And, children are a reward. I love my kids. I enjoy my kids. We enjoy our kids. We enjoy spending time with our kids. It's so fun. Yeah. And for someone to be jaded because of what they see out there, it's like, no, there's a better way. And, we often have invited these single people into our home to come and share a meal with us, especially if I hear that that's rattling in their head through the years. Come be with us. Because not that we're perfect. Trust me, we're not. No, we're not.
we're a mess.
Yeah, we're a mess. That's why it's called Our One Blessed Mess. But we've often had them come and share a meal with us or have a game night with us because we want them to see like there is a better way,
And I just want to say something, like it is kind of counterculture to talk about obedience in such a forthright way because authority has been done wrong. We've all seen the examples where authority has been misapplied, it's been hypocritical, and even in especially in church culture, it's done bad. We're broken people, and it doesn't often look good when people try to have a clear authority structure. However, you don't want rebellion.
No.
You don't want the opposite, guys. Just because authority hasn't been done well doesn't mean that the opposite is any better, right? In fact, it's worse. And so we have to turn to the scriptures to see what the Lord says about raising kids and about obedience, and also just about what he expects for parents too. And so one of the things that really got me thinking about this topic even more was a book called The Men We Need by Brant Hansen.
Great book.
Incredible book.
Great book.
My favorite author, but incredible book. And it talks about the role of masculinity in society, and specifically how it was started in the Garden of Eden, and just what we're expected to do as men. And one of the primary things we're expected to do from the Lord is to be a protector and to be a provider. And so one of the ways that you protect your family and you protect your wife as a father, as a parent, is to teach your kids obedience. It's such a practical way to be a protector. Super simple, right? If they obey, then they're more safe. As long as you are doing the right thing, right, then they're going to obey the right thing. So it does have to, it is predicated on you doing the right thing and being a good person. But if you set that example and you expect them to obey, then there's like this trickle down blessing effect that happens. And your wife is super grateful that you
step in.
That's what I
was going to say.
That's a good story.
You protect me from going crazy.
So real quick, I think we have time for one more quick story. But,
oh no. What story is this one?
I remember, I believe it was coming home one day.
Oh gosh.
And everybody just needed a little shape up kind of thing. It didn't look like First Some Obedience was going well. I came home and I looked at you and I was like, I know what to do. I know what to do. Stressed. You go to the bedroom. I'm going to go talk to the kids, and we worked it out with the kids, and I came back in and I said, you're welcome. And I went back down, or maybe it was starting work. I don't remember. Anyhow, I just came up and did those couple things. And then later on you came back to me and you're like, thank you so much.
I know.
You're so attractive right now.
It's true. It's true. Hey man, this is a tip. This is a tip for you. But no, there's actually a couple of stories around that. You know, I'm thinking of even when, COVID hit and we were thrown into COVID schooling.
Oh yeah.
That's not homeschooling. It was crisis schooling.
Crisis schooling.
Yeah. Because our kids were in school. At that time, we weren't homeschooling yet, and everything had to come home. And these poor, precious teachers were trying to duplicate what was happening in the classrooms, at home. And that was just nearly impossible. And so the kids were just like, it was a lot. And I remember one morning, like I was already so stressed, and you gathered the troops and you gave them the what for. And I mean, it was, it's dad, but it changed everything. And I thought, I haven't even gotten my coffee yet. Like, it just awesome. So awesome. This is going to be a good day. a good day.
There's two things I want to say real quick as we kind of wrap this up. One, this is not a super popular little tidbit here, but God is a judge and he does get angry. And we love to talk about God's love and his mercy and his grace. And I love that too. But we would be foolish to think that he doesn't also get angry and that he's also not a judge.
Right.
And you know what's good about those things is he gets angry at the things that are bad. He doesn't get angry at the things that are good. And he loves us even when we do those bad things.
It's true.
But he still wants justice. And that's a good thing. Like, we want to be saved from bad things and we want God's justice to come on the earth. And so part of like doing this first time obedience is like connecting our kids and showing them this concept that there is an authority and it's a good authority. And as long as you are connected to the heart of the Lord and you are loving your kids in a righteous way, then it's okay to make sure that they want to obey. And it's okay to like show and live that example even as you obey the Lord.
Right.
And
it's good.
You know, it's not popular because we like to just kind of skip past the judgment of God, but it's there for a reason. It's there for our own good. It's there to keep us out of trouble.
Yep.
And it's there as a reminder once we are in trouble that like, hey, God's anger lasts for a little while, but his mercy endures forever.
Forever.
And so, yeah, we just want to connect with God's whole heart. We don't want to just compartmentalize, and we want to make sure that we are doing it in the right way. And we also want to make sure that we're not stressed out. That's the biggest thing. We don't want to be stressed out.
Peace.
Yes.
I love everything that you just said. That's really good. And I think that's a good note to wrap all of this up on. We'll have a link in the notes for Brant Hansen's book.
Yeah.
It is a really good book. He's our favorite author. We hope to meet him one day. Ben's kind of a fan man over here.
Boy.
He's a fan man.
Bromance.
Yeah. We'd love to meet him. But we want to say thank you for being a part of our One Blessed Mess today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, heart, give the thumbs up, whatever platform you're listening this to on or watching. And then also too, feel free to share with your friends and your family that need some encouragement. We went kind of heavy and kind of deep today on a couple of things. We hope that it blesses you. We know that it has blessed our lives. And also follow us on Instagram. Our handle is at our numeric one, Blessed Mess. Of course, our acronym is our 1BM. Okay, we don't have that handle. But anyway, until next time, we just want to say embrace your beautiful mess, because if our mess is blessed,
then so can yours.
So can yours.